Serious people whose spouses have died and are happily remarried. What's it like? Do you still think about them? How does your partner feel about it? My wife, who I had been with for 15 years, died of breast cancer 10 years ago. I am since remarried 6 years with 2 wonderful little girls. As had been said, it takes years to rebuild yourself and your life. Initially you are surrounded by friends and family. Their concern and support allow you to grieve in the immediate aftermath. Eventually, of course, they all return to their lives and you to yours. You wake up that first morning in a new world. You have to live with the quiet of the house, the vastness of the couch, the coldness of the bed, the embarrassment of purchasing of a single pork chop at the butcher. It is profound how alone and lost you feel. How many people look at you with pity when they see you. Your prior future plans are scrapped. Of course, I still owned a house and it required just as much work as it did before. But now I had to do my late wife's share of the work. Things that I had learned to be helpless with. Cooking. Awful. Things that you relied on your spouse to remember birthdays. That place we ate at. Your friend's wife's name are gone forever and not coming back. Your perspective on life changes. For me, it was unexpectedly empowering. I was there for my wife during her illness. I was proud of how I stepped up to support her. In fact, supporting my terminally ill wife as they faced death is the proudest thing I have ever done. Having gone through such an awful experience, the little dramas of life that derail us in normal times seemed easy to deal with. You learn, or at least I learned, to make peace with things I could not control. Why should I worry if I could not affect the issue? I learned to let go and focus on what I could control. My health, physically and mentally. My relationships with my friends and family improved, likely due to more attention, but just as likely due to my newfound self-confidence and lack of drama. You want to decide where we go and what we do. Sure, I'm just happy to spend time with you and do something fun. I no longer cared that a friend always wanted to control the agenda or for what reason. Seemed like such a small thing to worry about. While this new, hard-earned perspective on life helped in many circumstances, it does pose challenges as most of the world does not have the similar perspective. I used to be far more career-driven and ambitious. I no longer live to work. I do my job well, certainly, but I don't worry about office drama or politics. Naturally, folks at work noticed and missed my old version. As my life priorities changes, others didn't necessarily approve. How could I not apply for that promotion? Was I checking out? I heard these and similar for years. But my new perspective, in my mind, allowed me to focus on what I now deemed far more important to me. My life. I was now aware of what an empty promise tomorrow is. That today is the only guarantee. Don't get me wrong, I fortunately didn't do anything stupid or short-sighted that would jeopardize my future, but I refused to put off to tomorrow something I could just as easily do today. Travel, calling an old friend, smelling the roses. As it were, I appreciated life, and it was indeed a gift. In many ways I was given the chance to know then what I know now. That is, I had a new emotional maturity, courageousness, and perspective of someone who had lived 80 years, rather than 34. I was fortunate. I had a fantastic marriage with a wonderful woman. Some people never get that, ever. Now I have a new wife and kids. They are wonderful and I appreciate them with a vigor that I would not have, nor could have, previously. I am living the life I have and living it the best way I can for me. I am not a victim. I consider myself embarrassingly fortunate. I could go on, as it really has been interesting to live through. How was dating again after years? How did I handle my late wife's ghost in the context of my new marriage? How is my relationship with in-laws? But I'll leave it there, I suppose. After we graduated and both landed jobs in a city 2,000 miles away, I married my college sweetheart. We bought a house, made plans, didn't include cancer in that plan, and I lost her after 6 years of marriage, and an additional 9 years of being pals, friends, best friends, then dating. 3 years later I met a really amazing woman, smart, witty, resourceful, beautiful and passionate. We were married a year later. It was her first marriage and she's older than me, but her parents, as they got to know me, respected and really appreciated my path in life. It's been 14 wonderful years now. I still miss my first wife. but not in a debilitating way. And my wife knows that, and respects it. My wife appreciates that my first wife was part of what molded me into the person I am today. Now I've been married more than twice as long as I was before I lost my first wife. We've had our difficulties, which led us to adopt our son, who is awesome, but both of our lives are better together and better because of where we each came from. It's a beautiful thing, and somehow I know that my first wife would have been really good friends with my wife if she had known her, and my wife is really great with my first wife's extended family. We get together often. Yes, I hit the lottery with both sets of in-laws. My husband died suddenly 4 years ago. It was hard. It took me a few years to pull myself together, but eventually I moved to a new city, found a job and made a new life. I'm 33 now and I live with my so. We're not married but talking about it. I still think about my husband every day. I miss him. I love him. It's hard to explain. My so tries to understand but he can't, which is okay. He doesn't like talking about past and likes focusing on the future. That's why I keep my past to myself, but I also keep it close. The hard truth is, I think I will never be as happy as I once was. And that's also okay, because I am happy, just not so young or naive to think that things can't fall apart in split second. It's bittersweet, because there's always a bit of pain there too. My husband died 5 years ago in April. We had a 2-year-old son together. I really struggled for a while. However, I eventually went down the path of healing. After lots of work and raising my son, I met an amazing man. We are engaged and expecting our first baby together. There are still days rare where I feel sad, but it's for what could have been. Every year, we send a lit Chinese lantern with a letter for our loss. My fiancé and I are incredibly happy and he is incredibly supportive of me. My son and him are very close and have a really cool bond. There is life after death, but you need to do the work to heal and find love again. The work is painful and gritty but totally worth the journey. My husband died at 34 of cancer. Our daughter was 8 months old. She is my saving grace and a blessing. It was hard then and it still is. I still cry and grieve. My daughter, now almost 7, asks questions and wants to know about her dad. I try to keep communication open with his family because my daughter needs that, but sometimes I feel they blame me. I still talk to him and think about him all of the time even though it's been 6 years. I met my second husband 2 years to the day of my first husband's death. I love him just as much as I love my first husband, but it's different. Our relationship isn't the same and he isn't the same person my deceased husband was. I am not the same person I was 6 years ago. I do feel this marriage is more difficult because I am dealing with an ex-wife and step-kids. I can't really compare the two relationships though because they are very different people. I love them both wholeheartedly. My second husband is very supportive and respectful of my first husband. He understands that some days are still hard for me, but it doesn't mean I love him any less. I'm sure sometimes he feels he is competing with a ghost, but I try not to make him feel that way. He encourages my daughter to ask questions and spend time with her grandparents. I will never forget my first husband, and there are times I still struggle and get mad at him for dying. It's hard and it sucks, but happily I made the choice to keep moving forward because I am still living and he would have wanted that. I guess I am a little different than some of the others who have responded. I was married for a long time, 29 years. No kids. Just her and me. Sudden heart attack. I won't even try to describe the loss. I still don't. Can't talk much about it. Even typing this is emotional. I remarried after about 2 years and I have been married now for 12 years. So I guess my natural state is to be married. I don't talk about my first wife, or even talk about anything about that past life. I explained what happened when I first met my second wife. But I sensed as time went on, she felt she might not measure up since I clearly idolized my first wife. So I just put it all inside and that's where it stays. In a box inside me. Sometimes the grief just comes out. In the first 5 years or so after my wife's death, it came out a lot. Not so much anymore, but it still does, and you never know when it will happen. It's sort like a wave at the beach. You are standing in shallow water, and something happens. A sight, a sound, a song, a smell, and you suddenly recall. And then without warning a giant wave of grief just comes at you and knocks you down. You try to get up, and another knocks you down. Finally you stand, and everybody is acting normal, but for you the world looks wrong. It takes a long time to get back. My first wife lost her mother when she was just 29. One day, when she was 39, we were driving on a summer Sunday morning, windows down, music up. I looked over and she was crying. "What are you crying for?" I asked. "I was just thinking of my mother. It's been 10 years," I said. She just looked at me with teary eyes. "You don't understand," she said, "but one day you will. I miss her."